How do I know where I'm messing up? I want to keep my marriage together. I want to keep my family together. Maybe she wants space right now and I don't know what's going on, but I want to know that I'm not making massive mistakes. I want to know where the minefields are. How do I not fall into these pits with spikes at the bottom, Jeff? So let's talk about that today. Cynthia and I here on the C Note Show are going to go through the top 5 marriage blind spots that take men by surprise. We see this every single day. We've been in private practice since 2016 now, full time working with men and families to grow more confidence and power and to know that you're doing the right things, that you're leaving no stone unturned, and how to heal from pain, how to heal from past hurts, and what to do. All right, into the top 5 marriage blind spots that take men by surprise. Coincidentally, there was a man that Cynthia and I know very well who posted on our private Facebook forum yesterday. And we're going to highlight his spot here as an example today. So we're going to go into that in a second. I love this quote. I admire people who choose to shine even after all the storms they've been through. And hell, if that's not a mantra for us in this work, men in this work who are facing potential, what it feels like absolute catastrophe. And I've been there and I know what that's like. So we're going to definitely point out where this man who posted is making some mistakes so we can all learn from it. So I'm assuming that you understand our Kingly Life Path framework. You know the Stoic Triangle. These are things we talk about all the time. Level 3 of deep conscious intimacy is where we're headed. And I want you to feel successful. You may not be at the top of Everest just yet, but you're climbing the next mountain. And that's what we're here to do together, to point you the safe path, the powerful path up the next climb. I love this picture. So you want to make sure that you're not trying to do something that really actually isn't helping, right? It feels like a sacrifice to you, but she never wanted that sacrifice, or you're not going to get any kind of credit for that, or it's actually not helping the situation. And that's what I love about this picture. And that represents our top 5 blind spots today. So, what mistakes do you think this guy is making? And I'm curious, how many of the top 5 blind spot mistakes is he making as well? So let's go into this. I'm not going to point it out as I read this first. We'll go back through it. Okay, another fight, he says. Long story short, my 8-year-old is over. She wanted to take the dogs and give them a much needed shower downstairs. Easy peasy, takes 20 minutes. My wife starts how it's not appropriate for the 8-year-old to give the dogs a bath. Our house is too expensive, blah, blah. Fine, he says. This makes my 20-minute task much bigger as I have to occupy the 2 little kids and get the dogs one at a time to the pet place at the corner to use the self-serve bath. Of course, seeing my body language, she's like, I will leave it up to you. Do what you want. And he says, which means do not do what I want. Okay, again, there's going to be a lot of mistakes from this post. This is what how this man approached this. This is why we're using this. Okay. I have my kids and wanted to take them to my parents for lunch, delayed from 12 to 2, take them up 4 more. So all this, like, oh my God, this turns into a huge hassle. Now it's been 3.5 hours and still no dog bath. My wife says, just let her take care of it. When and how, he's thinking. They stink to high hell and hang out in my office all day. I need a bath for them. She sees me mad and she goes off. I remain calm and she starts yelling. So whenever a man says, I remained calm, it's likely he didn't. So, like a little insight of these posts. I remain calm and she starts yelling. If I yell, by the way, which means he yells, if at times, if I yell, by the way, a mortal sin. Every time I do that, she starts in on, I can't do this. I promised I would never do this to my girls. I don't think it's going to work out, which duly scares the shit out of me. Way overreacting. I think he's insinuating that she is way overreacting. Now she's stormed out. I resent that she takes something super easy and makes it into an ordeal without regard for my time because it's, quote, inappropriate in her mind. And of course, again, involves my kids, at least peripherally. Now she insists we need counseling. We tried it once, 1 session, didn't need it. Not sure what that means. Minor shit, but she and the daughters are addicted to therapy. So now it wasn't the right fit for that counselor, basically because the counselor wouldn't tell her what she wanted and that it was unrealistic. So fine, we can go again. I tried to give her a hug and make up. She scares me with these reactions. I'm in fear every time we disagree. I shouldn't have been moody about the dogs, but by the same token, she shouldn't turn an easy task into a war and then get mad because I'm mad about it. Not overtly, by the way, just frustrated. Again, whenever a man says, I really wasn't that upset. Yeah, you were. Now I'm terrified. She's way upset again. And not only do I fear the rest of the day is ruined, but I just never know with this kind of reaction if she's going to come back with, it's not working. I have no idea what to do. I have my training, but still no idea. Lots of support for this man, lots of comments on the forum. Okay. Oh, by the way, we have a new wait list for our book, our upcoming book. Any new teaching videos, invites to our group calls, go to greatmenmovemountains.com/new subscriber and sign up if you want to check out our new stuff. Okay, first, top 5 marriage blind spots. We're going to talk with Cynthia about this right now. She doesn't have to like you to love you. So one big mistake that men think, and they really try, Cynthia, is to get the woman to like them. Okay, what can I do to get her to like me? Because that has to happen before she'll love me or feel attracted to me, right? So why is that not true? Why is that a blind spot in marriage? The man thinks that she has to like him to feel in love with him.
Yeah, I mean the word like strikes me as more of the neutral setting in a relationship. Things that she likes in her friendships, likes in her roommates she had in college, likes in her kids. And that's such a different energy than the more polarized, intimate ability to be sexually turned on with the word love. And the word love, the energy of love, comes with a heck of a lot more risk to her, to a woman. But because of that, there's more ability to rise and fall in emotions. And there's a wider breadth of things that she can feel towards someone versus liking, again, is neutral and kind of in a box.
So what do you mean by love takes more risk? Say more about that.
I would say this for women, but maybe I can lean in and say for human beings in general. To love is almost to experience a deeper sensation, even in the heart, or a higher sensation in the heart. And it comes without a lot of safety mechanisms. So when we love something, we're really putting a trust badge on. I'm trusting this other person to keep the love I'm sharing with them safe. And I'm also understanding that at any point, their love for me can switch or they cannot like me in a moment. And I need to be able to maintain my own stability, even when someone else is not acting in a perfect, lovable way.
Sure. So what does that mean for a man when he's trying to get her to like him, insinuating in his mind? Like you can see it on his face or the way he talks, or his intention is, please love me. And so let me try to get you to like me. And how does that rub against her feeling of needing to wanting to be safe or opening herself more? It seems as though it's a front, like him trying to get her to like him is a front to sneak in. Oh, now she loves me. Now she's attracted to me. Does a woman feel that?
Yeah, I mean, there's the element there of for women, having people like them is so important to their sense of survival. And a lot of women can be very people pleasing, even if to you she's the opposite of that. So in her world, liking something or saying that she likes something isn't always true. It can be a kind of feminine, how am I going to massage this relationship to make sure I fit in this at work or among a friends group.
Hmm.
And even that energy of I need her to like me, even in my whole body. It's like, well, why? Is something I'm supposed to fill in you, like an emptiness that is not a whole energy coming with I'm here, I'm a whole masculine being, and I don't need your feminine drift to like every single thing that I do. And I'll even admit, even uh when if I can feel elements of dislike and anger and frustration, if I really feel beneath them, like, oh, there's kind of some turn on and pizzazz there because there's emotional drama versus just the desert like let's keep everything even keel.
Yeah. What are you seeing from this story from the forum? He's trying to get her to like him, especially at the beginning here. We even talked about this off call of why didn't he just go ahead and give the dog a bath like he wanted in the first place? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, the first hit I got from this is it almost feels like this incredible man who I so respect is trying to be respectful of things that she's wanting, but almost in a way that it's like, I get the sense that it's like her house. And her rules seem to dictate the flow. And I think because there's some of that energy undertones, that's actually fueling her anxiety because she's not feeling his container and his frame around how they live and what they do, and that he's going to do what he needs to and keep the house safe and in his according to him. When a woman turns into, well, I'll just do it, that's a really big indication that she feels kind of spinny and that her frame is the only one that she trusts, relies on, or feels like her own sanctity, her own protection of the, oh, I love someone and this is a risky thing.
Yeah. So love your questions in the chat. A man asked, can you define feminine drift? Say more about that.
Yeah, I forget exactly the exact sentence I was saying it in, but it's kind of that the emotionality that a woman can feel around any one thing. Uh, even with this woman here, one day she might be in a really calibrated place and her nervous system isn't highly activated and she's fine with the dogs being washed in the shower. And then next day, the very same thing, if she's kind of riled up and stressed, it's almost like her whole emotional state connects to this has drifted to the side following the flow of what happens to be going on in her body.
Yeah, and we'll get into more of that. There's other questions I see, and we'll get into those before the end of the call too. So let's go ahead and step forward. I love you guys being here. All right, number two, marriage blind spot that take men by surprise. Doing more doesn't fix it. How many times have we seen this where you think doing more chores, more cooking, more of all those things around the house to take everything off of her hands is somehow going to fix it? Why is that misguided, Cynthia? Why is it misguided if he thinks if she just did less, she'd be happier?
Yeah, and I sometimes I just want to blanketly say, I'm so sorry. This is her process. This is the feminine process. Because I can feel as a woman feeling overwhelmed, especially with the details of things that we hold thinking is so important, or the control around an environment we think is so important. And I can feel a real desire of like, oh, I could just have freedom if this wasn't on my shoulders. But what happens is when this incredible man that you are, this masculine presence, this golden king that you are, steps in and tries to, save her from her own dragons, there's initially a moment where she can feel really great about it. But then there's a tendency, if she hasn't learned to deal with this herself, of like making you the errand boy. Like how much more can I give you? And the more you take of hers as if it was your own, the less respect she'll have for your king, the less actual romantic love she has, and it can move more into that neutral plane of do I like you or not like you.
Yeah, trying to get her to like you. It's sort of as though you're a parent and trying to get your child to like you is definitely not the way to flourish what you want. Same within your relationship. To try to get her to like you by doing more is not playing the role that you're wanting to play. You want a man last week, he's on here right now, said, I would love for her to admire me. I'd love for her to adore me and look up to me. And Cynthia, as you're saying, just trying to do everything for her is really changing her view of his identity. So say more about that. How important is it that she see him in a certain light?
Yeah, I mean, even with so a woman's like wanting you to take on things to clear her plate, that's almost like her seeking a masculine freedom herself. So in that dynamic, uh playing that out in a couple, it's almost like you become two masculine beings, just who's going to do this deal, who's going to do this deal. And again, that becomes like a comfortableness, someone maybe that she can rely on, which is great. But again, if we go in the evolutionary world, the neighboring tribes coming in and attacking, she's not going to turn to her companion who's very eager to, always wash the floor when she wants the floor washed. She wants to turn to the warrior and the king who uh, holds a far greater masculine presence than she does, who has a kingly eye, who has the wisdom to protect and provide and lead uh, in really important things. And we could talk about, oh, it's like warfare is important, but then we could talk about important things like the spiritual why of the relationship that is eons beyond the little daily tasks that I can get so, wrapped up in.
Yeah, that's well said. And if you've seen our other calls, you know that your spiritual why, your why for being in a relationship, what you look up to that's bigger than just the individual self of both of you is what you're referring to. That is something bigger than just the chores, the tasks that need to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In the chat, for me, I feel like I'm too much of a work in progress at the moment to be able to weather that feminine drift or storm. I'm okay with that. I was having shame about it earlier this year. Why am I not dating yet? Stories. But listening to that previous story, forget about it. Okay. Forget about it. I don't have the bandwidth to step into this the way I'd want to, and that's okay. Yeah, that would be an awesome topic for a different call, as far as when to date, dating, this kind of thing. Right now, this man who's just put that in the chat, you're tainted by what's happened in your marriage and the incredible emotional weight that was put upon you, and you were blamed in all these ways. And I'm sure all of the stories about women that you're hearing, and often men, we go through this anger phase and resentment phase of the 50-50 bullshit that we were sold, and why is it this way, and why does she pull love away, and why does she change stories from the past, and forget about it. Yeah, I don't want any of that shit. Okay. Well, that's because of all the rotten apples that were in the middle of the basket of your previous relationship really tainted your view of what the exchange between a man and a woman is about. It's not about you being a punching bag or her throwing shit like a monkey at you and you're just supposed to be okay with it. That's not what this is at all. But I understand what you're saying, and we'd love to have that topic for another time. That's a great point. We'll keep reading the chat. So put into the chat if you guys have questions, raise your hand in Zoom. I'd love to talk with you too, certainly after we get through the top 5. So top 5 marriage blind spot number 3, lack of personal passion within yourself as a man. Lack of personal passion is boring and feels unsafe to her. So the boring part, Cynthia, makes sense. If I'm just going to work like a robot and I come home and I just look exhausted, I feel exhausted, I collapse on the couch, I just watch TV, I'm not present, I'm like always in fear, I'm worried about shit in life. If I don't have any personal passion as a man, it's going to feel boring to her, sure, if I'm not inviting her. But then why does that also feel unsafe? So, okay, I get it. I don't want to be a dancing monkey. I'm not just here to entertain her. Okay, fair. But also, it feels unsafe to her when a man doesn't have personal passion. Say more about that for us.
Yeah. For a woman, she might be misperceiving this. As a man, you might be in a moment of just really being in stillness. But if she feels like there's almost like a little bit of a collapse in your masculinity, and I happen to feel part of the most powerful part of masculinity is the passion, that collapse, that lack of energy there is actually going to make her feel really not knowing, untrusting, and unsafe with even your perception of how you deal with the world or how you meet the world head on. Uh, she might wonder if you'll stay neutral kind of in whatever environment that shows up. And again, if we talk about protector provider, evolutionarily, her brain won't find that an energy to like want to really be behind, be next to, or feel held by.
So good. Let's let me play the other side of the table. I can hear echoes of, isn't this an archaic way to think about relationship, that all is she all she's driven by is that you're a provider and protector? What about, she can take care of herself and she doesn't need the man to necessarily have all this passion. Tell me about the other side of the coin here, and what you see there when it's like, well, I don't, why does it need to be this polarized situation? Why does she need to look up to me and feel safe through my own growth and passion as a man? Say more about that.
Yeah, so I'll say, sure, a woman can do this by herself, and I'll go like this with quotation marks, because she may feel like she has the perfect balance of masculine and feminine in her whole life. She can make everything happen. It's so funny. Every time I coach a woman who's very much in that mindset, we might even go through 10 sessions together, and every single time, by the time we get to the part where she's really willing to crack open, the yearning goes back to these very base evolutionary drives. And that's what fuels her attraction and her desire for you. And that's how a woman grows to her fullest, I dare to say, is feeling the difference of how masculine passion is different from her feminine passion, how your way of holding the world is so different from hers, how your honor expands eons around you, and hers is so attuned to her self cycles. uh, to me, that's what this means, and this is the seat of true physical romantic attraction.
Very cool. How is her feminine passion different than when she wasn't cracked open? Her more masculine passion in the world, but different than when she cracks open. You said there's a difference in feminine passion.
She might have passion for her job. She may have passion for serving. She may have passion for an activity, skiing, painting. It's a more of an externalized, she gets a lot out of it. Uh, when I'm talking about the cracked open passion, that is very much at home in the aliveness of her deepest emotions and feelings, which when she gets to access, especially in a container like a man like you would hold for her, she gets to feel an aliveness that's in and comes from herself, her own being and her heart, and actually isn't reliant on whether she's doing things in the outside world.
So one man asked, why does she pull this away? Why does a woman sometimes, he says, why do they shut off love and act like they just can't go there anymore? It's a big question, but in the sense of what we're speaking about now, where the man is making these blind spot mistakes, why is it that she shuts off love and acts like she can't go there anymore?
Yeah, because the love in itself it aches so good and it can ache so painfully. And so if there's been a lot of blind spots in your relationship, and uh, she has felt a heartache in one, two, three certain situations or over and over for a certain amount of years, there might be part of her that's just like, I can't feel this deeply anymore. Like, I don't have the stamina. There's also a part of women who I think they've learned that if they kind of shut off their heart, that's their way of them trying to have power. And, there's a certain way of, you can say women in culture use things more like, even with each other, more things like shame or emotional cutoff to create like not healthy boundaries or to punish someone. And so for a woman, the worst thing you can do is to cut off love or be cut off from love. And so that might be her in a way trying to voice how angry she is or disillusioned, or how unskilled she is to deal with the varied emotions of high level relationship.
Yeah, thank you. Let's step forward. So, number 4 blind spot: when a man confuses emotional expression with logic. So we've heard this one before, but I want to highlight, when I teach a man one-on-one, I hammer this. I hammer that when she's talking about the second home that she wants to buy on Mars because of the beautiful view that it will have, or wherever in the world that wouldn't it be great to have a home in Maui? Yeah, that sounds fantastic. That's an emotional expression. She's not asking for you to try to make the home on Mars happen. It's her being in vision, in fantasy. So, Cynthia, what's a more subtle one that you see that men mistake where they think she's actually trying to be logical, but really it's just an expression?
Yeah, a lot of times when women are sharing something about that they're having an issue with or they're annoyed by, we could even say it's an issue with a coworker. And I'll put it aside. There are some women who might be very logical minded who are very much looking for a fix, but 99% of the time she's sharing that experience. She may think she wants it fixed, but really she's wanting the story of it heard and what she's gone through or what she's going through emotionally. And I know that gets tricky because then you can get stuck with your wife or a woman. She kind of gets stuck in the cycle of sharing the same story over and over. But I can really say sometimes those deeper stories, as a woman, you can be handed all the logical things, all the you should think this way, you should have this mantra, you should do this habit, but it doesn't diffuse until you feel like it's actually been heard on an emotional level.
So good. Let's talk about that. Let's go a little bit deeper on this one. I hadn't necessarily planned on doing this, but okay. So if you're telling me something about your day, and as a man, I'm thinking this is something I need to fix, or if I have like a flat face and I'm searching for where the 1 + 2 = 3, or how I can fix A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
If I'm really so a flat face, I'm not breathing very deeply. It's kind of I'm looking for something that's wrong. How does that not help her feel heard versus I'm not saying anything in particular, but I have expression on my face. I feel her pain in my guts and my body and my heart, maybe of what she's expressing, but I don't have to change anything that I'm saying. Just the expression of I'm trying to fix it, I'm trying to analyze versus I'm in it with more facial expression, full body feeling in my guts. How is that different for a woman to feel heard and understood?
Yeah, the facial expression, the movement, her body's going to pick up on that you're fully present with her, that you're fully present with her bodily experience, and that can make her feel like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Like I'm not alone. When there's the intensity, I am so in respect of the of masculine ability to take a problem and go, hey, we're gonna take the emotions to the side don't really matter. And we're really going to fix this. So this isn't an issue again. That kind of intensity and almost like warrior ready, like I'm going to take this down. It can be very, on the other side of that, woman can see that almost as maybe you're even she perceives like maybe you're even judging her for having the problem, or judging the situation as wrong or bad, or something in her is gonna flicker with that and maybe even kind of like bite back about it because something feels too intense and a little off.
Yeah, you're not trying to be her girlfriend. That's another thing I want to add to this. Often we'll say, "Yeah, I know a story like that. I was in that spot one time." But women hate that, a spouse. I hear this lots of if you're talking with a friend, you exchange stories. But in a man and woman situation where she's complaining about something or sharing her pains about work, I won't say complaining, sharing her pains about work in an emotional way that's really painful for her. Why does she not want to hear a similar story from him?
Yeah, and you will see women with friends, swap stories. I think I'll go back to again, you have so much power as a masculine being. So like the swapping of stories, she'll actually kind of feel like it becomes then about the other person, and
Hmm.
not about her. And that again, it's not because she doesn't do that in other situations. It's just there's something about masculine energy that is it can fill the room and it can lead the environment and it can be the most stabilizing force. And so if it becomes all about, in her mind, you, she'll feel like the wind kind of taken out of her sails.
That's really well said. Thank you. So number 5, marriage blind spots. Number 5, she feels used sexually when you aren't fully embodied. We started to talk about this last week, actually, and this was I loved how you spoke about this, and this was an awakening for me, and my mind just exploded, and other men were saying the same thing. So if you as a man are all up in your head, or if you're in fear, or if you're in planning mode, and you don't feel embodied, if you don't feel your breath, if you don't feel your legs, if you don't feel the power in your guts, this, like, let's say spiritual power, or power that's bigger than you, or something flowing through your body, if you feel cut off from the neck down as a man. So Cynthia, if he's in fear, or thinking, or spinning in his head, and he's not embodied, why is it that she will feel used sexually if he goes to her for sex at that point? Why will her body feel used at that point?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about that empathically. She can't feel that your body is there and it's just your mind. It will feel so impersonal to her, as if she could just be anybody that you're with in that moment. And another thing I think that happens too is so much of the gift of the feminine is to provide feeling and to be the aliveness of feeling. And if during sex, the masculine's like, I'm trying to feel good, I have only through her body, because everything else is up here, she will feel that. And again, it will feel kind of impersonal, as if it's just being utilized for that. And I would say women can do the same thing. They can, try to use sex as a way to, I want to feel better because I feel nothing, I feel numb. And I either way, I feel like that's such a dampening of the light, again, of like spiritual why do we have sex together. And it's even something that's like makes sex transactional, that she might be feeling okay with early in the relationship, but then 10 years down the line suddenly has an issue with and comes out with, I feel used, I feel like you only want me for sex. Those really painful comments.
Okay, so that's a big topic we could have for a whole other time, but how can a man, I was about to say be certain she doesn't feel used, but we can't be certain for her. So what are some signs that he wants to see, that you're going to want to see as a man, that he's going to want to see, that she is there with him, open, expressive, embodied, that she's feeling herself, so she's not just covering or avoiding or using her own self in this way?
Mhm.
What's something to lead us maybe into another call about that?
Yeah, there's like responsiveness in the moment. So not just sexual responsiveness, there's emotional responsiveness. There's eye contact or smiling or the human moments that come up in sex, not her just eyes closed, maybe just in her own head. Because I could say that really deep, long lasting sex for a lifetime with your partner is so much more than the physical gratification of it going perfectly every time, and like clockwork. There's the moments of pause, there's the checking in, and it's not all about her always feeling pleasure all the time. There's a whole emotional range for her that I want her to feel in sex.
Yeah, we could talk about that much more, and we have in our group coaching, and the different types of sex, and what are your goals within sexuality. That's definitely a topic for another time. So how many mistakes did this man make? How many blind spots mistakes did this man make? She doesn't have to like you to love you. Doing more doesn't necessarily fix anything. You want to have personal passion in life for yourself, and it's really important for the relationship to not confuse emotional expression with logic. Consider those two completely different games, two completely different sports. I'm going to talk about them at different times, different days, even. And number 5, if you don't feel embodied within you, then she may feel used sexually, like you're trying to awaken your body through her body. Let's take a look at the chat in our last minute or so here. Yeah, these all seem to ladder up to what my wife would always say. We have no emotional connection, especially the last point of what you were saying. So sexually, her being in her head, I'm assuming that you're meaning here. Yeah. Based on the top 5 blind spots, what's the best way to connect with her? I mean, that's a big question. That's a really big question. So what would be a base answer, a beginner answer for that question? And then we could certainly elaborate more on this, or if you guys have questions, post in the forum, right? greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook. So what are the best ways to connect with her based on these blind spots, would you say, Cynthia? How would you respond to this, man?
I almost want to start with the first one of even the idea that she doesn't have to like you to love you. And even the things that she doesn't like art doesn't mean that they should, necessarily stop. If I think about the man in the post that was read, how different the energy of him kind of being like, okay, whatever you want with the dog, like I won't do whatever, like I'll just go with what your body language says. Like how, ugh, that the tension between them two versus him really standing, you know, evoking more of a conversation and then really standing in, hey, this is what I'm going to do with my daughter and having the masculine frame and it's going to be okay. Uh, and even if she comes back with, the wall, look, the paint got scratched. Like, I think that's something that women get so obsessed with the lack of abundance of things and the masculine perspective, like, oh, well, you know, I'll repaint that next time.
Yeah.
We're going to put up a plastic shield. And hey, by the way, this is teaching my daughter some really amazing skills of her own. And how awesome is that we're part of, bringing this young woman into the world that is both feeling and in love with her dogs, but also wants to do something to take care of them in, maybe a less than perfectly clean way.
Yeah. The deeper, the bigger mindset, the smile on your face, the joy, regardless of what's going on, to lead her into that space.
Yeah.
That's a way to connect. I appreciate you guys. Post in the forum. Again, greatmenmovemountains.com/Facebook. If you want to see more of our stuff, check out our website, greatmenmovemountains.com. Thank you, Cynthia. See you guys next time. Appreciate you being
Thanks.
here. Ciao, guys.